I think I've done the impossible. Ranking the transfers for Mick Cronin's program. You're going to disagree.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxheimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for your support. The Bruins have a lot of talent coming in for this upcoming 24-25 campaign. Mick Cronin, it's been talked about by everybody, myself included. This is a team that's got a lot higher expectations. The ceiling is much higher. A lot of unknown in a different way from the most recent campaign, but Mick Cronin is chomping at the bit to get this season started, his inaugural season as a Big Ten head coach as the head of the UCLA program. So what have I done? I have done my best, my due diligence into ranking into who I believe will have the biggest impact this coming year as an incoming transfer. 1 through 6, 8 newcomers, but 6 transfers. So who is going to lead this thing off? Who is going to have the biggest impact immediately for this team? It's none other than the highest rated transfer. You go over the list on 24/7 Sports as to biggest Big Ten recruits coming in. UCLA slots in there amongst the top 3. It is Kobe Johnson. And if you actually look at that list for who are the best Big Ten transfers coming in, a lot of those players are either coming from former Pac-12 teams or are going to current Big Ten/former Pac-12 teams like Washington or SC, or joining UCLA in the top 10 into most impactful transfers already. So somebody like the likes of Kobe Johnson, who is, if you look at his rating, 96, 97, high 4-star transfer, one of the top 2, top 3 rated small forwards available, is potentially upgrading and giving much added depth for UCLA in a position where Lazar Stefanovic is possibly and probably going to lose some time if he does not find time on the court with Kobe Johnson, who is coming in as a back-to-back all Big 12 defensive team member, all Pac-12, I should say, defensive team member, someone who is the captain of USC, going crosstown, switching rivalry sides, and he's coming to UCLA. Average double figures, the defense is there, the rebounding is there, the intangibles there, the leadership is there, right? Think of Kobe Johnson as one of those guys who is in his later stage of his career as think of what Jason Hayward is to the Dodgers, right? A good clubhouse guy, but producing. Think of what Johnson can do. A good clubhouse guy who is elite still in his talent. So you mix those two things together and you got a leader and a talented guy. And Stefanovic is playing on the bench, last year's transfer for UCLA, then that's only a good thing for both players because you're going to maximize the potential of both. So that's your number one most impactful transfer who's going to make some immediate impact. Fighting for minutes and challenging last year's probably unquestioned leader by being a leader himself on the court and off the floor, giving UCLA quite the locker room of leadership with 8 newcomers and 6 transfers. Think about that. It's not going to be just the offense, which 30% from 3, closer to 36% his sophomore year. If that improves to his sophomore year level and Johnson's a 3-point shooter, UCLA is going to score so many more points than they did last year. Defense off the charts. Leadership, it's going to be what brings this locker room together because there's going to be a lot of unhappy guys not getting time this year who would get time if they went to another program. Who is my number 2 most impactful guy for this UCLA year? Who's going to come in? Well, the Bruins lacked a true power forward last year. And while Adem Bona was an undersized center for UCLA, did a lot of work, but he needed some help at the 4. The Bruins tried a too-big lineup. They tried Vedeke. They tried so many different things. I'm going with the former Oregon State Beaver, Tyler Bilodeau, who was billed as a rising transfer star, right? He's a guy who averaged about 14 points per game, led the Beavers in shooting percentage, had about 7 rebounds per game. That's a lot of pop that UCLA is getting at a spot that they did not have a year ago. And even if Bilodeau does not put up similar numbers, whatever it is going to probably be a much better increase in value from what UCLA got a year ago in this position, maybe the last couple of seasons, depending on who you put where. And sometimes Mick Cronin's mix and match lineups where guys are crammed into different spots, whether they're undersized or oversized. So Bilodeau is going to bring some size, some energy, a lot of scoring in a spot that did not provide that in 23 and 24. So the former Beaver is going to come and bring some shooting, some rebounding, a little bit of foul trouble, but he's going to compete for a starting four spot and will be immediately important to this UCLA team just because they had a hole there a year ago. All right, you're going to disagree in number 3. I want a little controversial here. The former Gonzaga player, the former LMU Lion, Dominic Harris, when he is healthy, this guy is close to a 20-point-per-game scorer, was one of the Lions' leaders in scoring, and they didn't do so well when he was not in the lineup when he was hurt last year. If he is on the court, Harris, who I don't actually think will start this season, but will play valuable minutes off the bench in key stretches of games when the Bruins are inevitably trailing at some point in the game or late in stretch when they need a big three, look to Dominic Harris, who is a 40% three-point shooter. Come in. Remember, UCLA, if it wasn't for Dylan Andrews going off the charts down the stretch from three and scoring, UCLA would have had one of the worst individual season from three that they've ever had if that did not happen down the stretch this last year's team. So I'm going to go with Dominic Harris as an immediate impact. If he is healthy and on the court, then UCLA is going to have something super special. So let's go back. A lot of those guys, so you got a 2-3 possibly with Johnson, probably a small forward. You got Harris as a 3 and Bilodeau as a 4. All providing a lot more scoring pop potentially. Johnson has a lot more boxes checked, a broader stretch of importance. Bilodeau, a very specific set coming to a power forward spot. And then you've got Harris, who I think, if healthy, can provide a much-needed spark for a UCLA team that lacked so much scoring, lacked any type of shooting from last year's team, and if healthy, will probably have more impact than the rest of the other 3 transfers and potentially the freshmen combined. This is easily a guy who could be slotted, maybe not even make any impact this year, could be the 6th best of the 6 transfers if things play out the way they do. But I think Harris's upside and potential can make a lot of trouble for teams trying to guard the Bruins. Who's the ball going to? And all of a sudden, Harris starts splashing threes off the bench. Like I think he'll start from the bench, 6th, 7th guy. That's a guy UCLA will have as a very valuable member when David Singleton, he graduated 2 seasons ago. So now UCLA has been without a true three-point weapon that doesn't have the ball in their hands all the time for a full season. And I think Harris can bring that without fully demanding it. He is a scorer and a shooter, which is what UCLA desperately lacked in their final Pac-12 season. It was so woeful sometimes to see the Bruins shoot the ball last year. One of the worst 2-point shooting percentages, awful from 3. And in this day and age, you got to be good at one or the other. And the Bruins could not consistently get both. And Harris is going to significantly increase just his presence on the court, should hopefully bring that for the Bruins. So I got 1, 2, and 3. Kobe Johnson, Tyler Bilodeau, and Dominic Harris. All right, am I ruffling your feathers yet? Well, stay tuned because we got 4, 5, and 6 coming up for biggest impact transfers and newcomers for UCLA basketball this upcoming season for Mick Cronin's bunch. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive because eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and more. Because whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 120 million plus parts for your number one ride or die. You're going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because even with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. The parts you want at the prices you want. The parts you need, prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, cruising on second segment for Locked On UCLA. We are ranking the incoming transfers and to who will have the biggest impact immediately in this upcoming season. First one of the Big Ten, UCLA, for a team that has not a lot of continuity after a lot of freshmen came in, 7 newcomers from a previous season, and then UCLA said, all right, goodbye to most. Some went pro, some went to other schools, transferred out, and then Bona went to the draft. UCLA had some talent returning, but the upgrades at all these spots is what's going to make this season extremely exciting for Mick Cronin and company. Based on College Basketball Report, they have UCLA. This is going to be, in quotations of sorts, the third most experienced team heading into this year. Now, have they played with each other outside of a pickup game practice at this point? No. They are the third most experienced team when you go based off minutes played for Power 5 teams. So when it comes to minutes played for a Power 5 team coming into the 23-24 season, you've got, ironically, USC, Xavier, UCLA, Ole Miss, and then Washington. That's your top 5 when it comes to minutes. So what do guys do in the offseason? They go get transfers who will play a lot of minutes, score a lot of points. You throw them all on a roster, you're going to have an experienced team. And UCLA is unique because they've got 3 to 4 guys who have scored more points per game in the most recent season than UCLA's current leading returning scorer, which is Dylan Andrews. And while I'm not exactly sure Kobe Johnson's going to need to do that, or Tyler Bilodeau, or Dominic Harris is not going to be tasked with bringing up the ball every time at the floor, they're going to be impactful to help build Dylan Andrews into a meteoric rise from his sophomore to junior season. But now we get back to our list for an experienced team that is going to be scrapping and clawing for minutes, all its transfers, with a team that has some parts that can grow from last year into this year. 4, 5, and 6. What is important about number 4? William Kyle is important because, one, he played in a tournament team last year, was important to the Summit League tournament champs and to get into their NCAA tournament. For William Kyle, he is the replacement for Adem Bona. And if there is any hole from a team of last year for UCLA, it is the loss of Adem Bona to the NBA draft, who, if UCLA could have kept him a year or two more, they would have loved to grow and see the big man develop his footwork, his foul tendencies, and his improved offensive game. But he's athletic enough, he's good enough, he's testing the NBA waters, so UCLA lost him. But William Kyle is billed as a great shot blocker, can get buckets close to the hoop. This is somebody who I believe is going to be very impactful for UCLA, partly because he's the one piece that is going to replace the biggest lost piece for UCLA, which was Adem Bona. Why is he only number 4? I'm talking immediate impact, not importance. So when it comes to immediate impact, we're going to see how much UCLA feeds the post. If it's Stabilito, if they shift and give the ball more to a Adem Bona, and Kyle is there more defensively. But his presence alone puts him, I think, fighting with Dominic Harris, probably pushing Bilodeau closer to a 2B, 2C for most important / immediate impact worthy for this team as a transfer this year. But Kyle is important, and I think his impact will be felt, because if UCLA does not miss Adem Bona, that is because Kyle comes in and plays elite defense and can score the basketball in the post. We'll find out how that plays out in the next year. For UCLA, number 5. All right, this is going to be interesting. The guy who's been around for a little bit. It's Sky Clark. Coming from Louisville, he had committed to one school, went to another, coming from Louisville, a team that just fired their head coach, and now he comes to UCLA, a leading scorer for Louisville, had a very great game in the ACC tournament against Notre Dame, against NC State, and then they made their big run to the Final Four. So he did it against some elite competitors in March, but for a team that was subpar. And you wonder, for somebody, if he doesn't get time, if he's going to battle Sebastian Mack for playing time, if Dominic Harris is healthy, well, where is Clark going to play? Is he the 2? Is he the 1? Is he backing up Andrews? Is he happy about that? For someone who's already flipped a lot of schools, where is he going to come in? But whatever it is, he shot the ball well down the stretch. He could score the basketball and was one of the early guys that UCLA got to commit via the portal, which then led to this laundry list of guys where who is going to get time? And don't forget, you got Trent Perry. You got Eric Freeney, who are going to be fighting for minutes here, with Dylan Andrews, who is the established 35, 36 minutes per game. But that's all questions that Mick Cronin's got to worry about. What we're debating about is Clark's importance, most importantly, his impact. And I think because of all that of a logjam, his impact won't be felt as much as the other four. Johnson going to come in, leader, does a lot of things. You've got Harris, who can score. Bilodeau filling a spot of need for UCLA and needed improvement. You got Kyle, who comes in and is replacing UCLA's biggest hole from a player leaving last year. Clark, I think, is very important because he's going to push the other players. If he does his thing, he's going to push the other players who will fight for playing time and could potentially be a lethal scorer, like Perry could. Freeney could have something to say. Andrews comes in, is going to have the ball in his hands every possession for a large part of the shot clock, depending on how well UCLA passes the ball. And if Mick Cronin decides not to do anything revolutionary in offense, it's going to be very sticky, like it tends to be, whether it was Tiger Campbell, whether it's Dylan Andrews, whatever it is, ball's very sticky. So how is Clark going to handle that? And will his impact be felt in a similar fashion? That is why he's so down on my list, because there's a lot of players he's going to have to usurp to get to a high level. Not that he's not going to be felt, not that he can't score 10 points, even in a bench role, in a starting role, whatever it may be. His impact won't be felt as much, I think, for UCLA, which leaves us to number 6. Last but not least, Eric Daly Jr. from Oklahoma State. I give a lot of love into what the lineup rotation would look like. 6th player of the year potential in this man. And he is here number 6 out of 6 transfers for UCLA. Will his impact be felt? He is going to be the guy you probably love, arguably one of the most lovable transfers, I think, if he plays up to his potential. Someone who could stretch the floor. He is an undersized big, probably can play as an oversized 3, a 4, or will probably play an undersized 5, depending on the foul trouble and what things go with Mata, with Kyle, and Bilodeau, and can kind of shift things around, can shoot the 3 over 30%, score a couple buckets, get some rebounds, block some shots, athletic, and was very impressed with what he did at Oklahoma State, where the former Cowboy, remember I think I said he was a Sooner, no Cowboy, don't know why I got Sooner on the head, but the former Cowboy coming in is somebody who, impact-wise, will probably be beloved. When it comes to UCLA fans' hearts, I think Daly has that opportunity to win over with heart and hustle. When it comes to stat-stuffing impact, I'm not sure you're going to see that. If you're going to look at everybody pointing to guys, you're going to see Dylan Andrews. You're going to see all these other guys who will put up more numbers in different ways. Johnson, Bilodeau, they're all going to put up better numbers than Daly is, which is why he's in the spot he is. But UCLA, the way this roster is constructed, is going to need production from every single player, every single spot, and be prepared on any given night in the Big Ten, on a road trip, in the NCAA tournament, in the conference tournament, in the non-conference schedule, to prepare and be at their best. Because with all the travel and the crazy cross the country, 2 games, come back, everything, Mick Cronin's going to have a full lineup prepared for injuries, for stress, for exhaustion, for everything. And Daly can hopefully be that Energizer Bunny that comes in and is very good. Him being the 6th out of the 6 transfers for the UCLA newcomer class, I think is important. Because he is still not to be forgotten. Just because he is the bottom of this list doesn't mean he is forgotten. I just think when you look at impact, immediately you won't feel it. But he will be, I think, an important piece of the puzzle for UCLA down the stretch if they are to have a successful season in 24 to 25. Now, did I cheat a little bit and not throw in the freshman? Maybe I did, yeah. Because where are Perry? Where's Freeney going to fit on this? Oh, yeah, you got Mac. You got, Dylan Andrews. You got all these guys, and it's like, whoa, Diamara. And you're like, what's going on with this team? They're going to be locked and loaded. They got a lot of minutes played, guys who can score, guys who can shoot, athletic guys who can rebound, leadership coming in. Don't forget about Lazar Stefanovic. You've got a lot of talent coming in to score, shoot, play defense, and hopefully be vocal between all these 6 guys who played a lot on their respective teams when they were healthy and things were going right. Now, it remains to be seen if Mick Cronin can put it together as a cohesive club, cohesive unit, and a big-time program. If he does, UCLA is Elite 8 Final Four potential. If they don't, they will be ridiculed and mocked as a flameout, and Mick Cronin has to figure out another strategy to his recruiting, because he went after his first full 4 years, which somewhat was COVID marred and everything, went international. Didn't fully work, although he couldn't get the NAL bucks. Now the Bruins got the NAL bucks. They got the best players they wanted. They plucked in a couple more freshmen. They created a scholarship that's not even a scholarship for one of these players who's not even technically a scholarship. They just filled it because they're going to throw with money. Mick Cronin's got a bag of riches right now. And UCLA is going to have to figure out how to keep them all happy for an entire season and be successful and knock UConn off its perch. Mick Cronin is spicy enough to do it. And I'm excited to see how this list, which goes Kobe Johnson, Tyler Bilodeau, Dominic Harris, William Kyle, Sky Clark, and Eric Daly, 1 through 6, its immediate impact can gel with Dylan Andrews, with Mack, with Stefanovic. How is this team with Adai Mara all going to fit together with the other 2 freshmen in Perry and Freeney? I don't know, but I did my best shot. Let me know in the comments how dumb you think I am, how smart you think it is, hopefully more nicer than the other, and where you think this ranking should go. Speaking of rankings, UCLA is only going to crawl even higher when it comes to the class of 25 rankings. Why? Because the Bruins got another commit. He was crystal balled. He has finally made it known to the public. What does it mean for UCLA football and Deshaun Foster? I'll tell you next. All right, we're wrapping things up here on Locked On UCLA, and the Bruins got a big-time score in the class of 25 recruiting. Tell me if you've heard that again. In middle of May to the mid to near end part of June, the Bruins have been swinging for the fences and have been getting things they wanted, whether it was Madden Iamaleava, as I butchered that name, we're going to get that down, but he's not a Bruin yet. Iamaleava. Boom, got that. And many other recruits committing to UCLA. The latest, who was already crystal balled to UCLA, Jaden Hudson, a safety from Pittsburgh in California, who comes in committing to UCLA as a 4-star, according to the 24/7 Sports Market. This is a guy who was quoted as saying, I feel the biggest reason I committed to UCLA is because of Coach Foster. Remember, the relationship from head coach to player is important to bring him in, and then the position coach, Coach Brian Norwood, is important to bringing him in, and the family-oriented part of the UCLA program that is right now. Didn't feel that way under Chip Kelly. The Bruins got a 4-star safety. What's it looking like? I was reading 24/7 Sports, where it fits in. Most importantly, UCLA, they're adding to the secondary. They realize after the 2 transfers out, when the Bruins lost their defensive coordinator, 2 couple transfers going to USC, players leaving on the defensive side of the football, they needed some help in the secondary. So 24 might be a bit rough when it comes to teams trying to go deep and over the top if UCLA's transfer portal gets don't pan out like the Addisons and everything in the world. But right now, UCLA is building and fortifying a spot where they're missing Chase Coleman, Karan Jabari Jr. Those are 2 corners, and they're going to get a 2-way player in Hudson who probably won't translate to a 2-way guy, but is someone who is more of a safety. As I'm reading from 24/7 Sports, written by Brandon Huffman, did a good piece in where UCLA is getting somebody to fill a spot, right? They had a couple corners, didn't have a true safety in this class. And now they're checking all the boxes, making sure they get elite athletes. This is a kid who comes in where UCLA in his initial top 10 did not have their name in the mix. So at one, you could say, all right, that's teenagers being teenagers. That's also when Chip Kelly was recruiting. But when September 23, his top 10 included a lot of names, 3 Big Ten West Coast teams, none of those including UCLA, Oregon, Washington, USC, battling Georgia, LSU, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Tennessee. You got a mixture between ACC, SEC, Pac-12/Big Ten. And then all of a sudden, UCLA hadn't even offered when he laid out his top 10. And they go and get this kid from September to April. So in the span of half a year, when it was the likes of Norwood and Danton Lynn, the Bruins were able to find a way to get to him. And then you bring in a Kaika Malloy, who is known as a good recruiter. You bring in the new energy of Coach Foster, the relationship between Norwood And now UCLA ended up in the Final Four in April between Oregon, Tennessee, UCLA, and SC. So seemingly wanted to be more West Coast there. And you bring in the kid, UCLA wins at the end of the day. That's a big come-from-behind win in a West Coast battle where you're trying to beat off those SEC schools that are throwing NIL bucks at them. You win that. Then you got to stave off the West Coast guys, the Nike money that is Oregon, the USC, who I believe just opted in, is going to probably start being like these SEC schools that may be directly playing athletes, right? That's not official. That's not anything. I believe I read that. But it's coming to the day and age where the private school part of USC is going to play a big factor to them getting recruits, where UCLA is going to have to try and win these 4-star battles without having to directly promise directly paying players. Like it's going to be with the new lawsuits and the settlements and how it's going to look like in directly playing players. So for UCLA to win this battle was huge. Top 30 safety across the country, one of the top 30 players in the state of California, which is filled with great players, whether they pan out or don't in the collegiate level. That's a top tier list for you to be in the top 1 to 99th percentile, if you wish, 95th percentile at worst in Hudson, who's coming in. Now, that's a lot to talk about one individual, but think about where UCLA's climbed from bottom tier Big Ten rankings in recruiting, laughable where they were left after Chip Kelly just jilted them and went to Ohio State as an offensive coordinator, vacating a head coaching position. Ironically, Ohio State's head coach, they're for baseball, left their head coaching spot, went to become an assistant. So you win some, you lose some. The energy and the vibe is different with Deshaun Foster, who I thought, when I most recently talked recruiting a couple weeks ago in this podcast, they were climbing into the top 25. They had not been there since 2018, 2017, when you mixed in the Jim Moore recruits and the Chip Kelly recruits. And then UCLA is probably going to push, as I'm predicting, top 15, more than top 20, top 15, top 10 potentially, if they keep going at this rate, for recruiting class rankings by the time it's all said and done for the class of 25. You're going to have a couple of these guys flip. The UCLA is going to swing for the fences and get another last-minute 4 or 5-star. Not that there's anything coming up right now, but that's just the way it works in recruiting, with juniors going to their senior years of high school, right? And if UCLA all of a sudden surprises people at 24, don't be surprised if everybody hops on the bandwagon. A successful season and people wanting to see a packed Rose Bowl with energy, buzz, everything coming in, the expanded playoff, which is for better or for worse, changing the game of college football. If the donors or the boosters could pony up a little bit, it's not going to be like the private schools or the Oregons or the SEC schools, but UCLA is competing right now. And that's the best thing Deshaun Foster has brought to this program. Getting committed Jaden Hudson, adding to a growing, expansive list of commits in the month of May into mid-June for this class of 25. That is looking pretty satisfying for a potential to grow into the future. I'm excited, and I hope you are too, with the Rose Bowl and everything to play out with Mick Cronin and all UCLA sports. That's where we're going to wrap up here. Get your hands up, Bruins fans. It's an 8-clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.